currently live in an era where people who grew up playing games are now making their own games for people to enjoy, and I freaking love it. Instant classics such as Pizza Tower or Bug Fables are making their mark on players, taking from such clear inspirations. It's such a delight to see these games being made, especially when they're inspirations from something I really enjoy. Case in point, it took 10 years for Pikmin 4 to come out. So during that gap, we got a bunch of Pikmin-Likes. From bangers like the Wild at Heart to Hotel Transylvania 3. Wait, what? My personal favorite is Tinykin. Tinykin is a game entirely about running around collecting shinies, but man is it a fun game about running around collecting shinies. In Tinykin, you play as Mylodane, an archaeologist who's trying to find the source of humanity. He follows a distant signal, gets stuck in an absolutely massive house, and must recruit the help of the native bugs in Tinykin to collect household objects, build a spaceship, and go home. So in short, Tiny Spaceman crashes on humanless Earth and must utilize horde of creatures to repair a spaceship. I can feel the Pikmin oozing out of this game, but honestly, aside from a few other details, that's where the similarities end. Instead of a horde management-focused real-time strategy game, Tinykin is a 3D platformer. It takes some of the key elements from Pikmin that the series honestly should flesh out more, and runs with it. The whole game takes place inside a giant house. Every level is just a single room, and it's non-stop fun from start to finish. As opposed to many other 3D platformers, which task you with either following a linear path to the level end or collecting various objects around to progress the game, Tinykin's actual level goals are an incredibly small part of the experience. For example, if you want to progress through Folania Heights, the game's second level, it doesn't take much. Grab some Tinykin, enter a terrarium, move the cactus, grab the key, collect the funnel. How much of the level is left? Oh. It says the level has 900 pollen, but there's actually 200 more. As such, a majority of the game is focused on you exploring the game's levels and collecting various objects around. Finding pollen, completing side objectives or relics. This is what the game really has you doing, and you can't do this without the Tinykin. Despite being the game's namesake, the Tinykin don't play as big of a role as you'd think. Instead of being the primary factor that makes the world go round, they act more like progression collectibles. There are 5 types of Tinykin: pink, red, green, blue, and yellow. Pink Tinykin carry, red Tinykin explode, blue Tinykin conduct, yellow Tinykin bridge, and green Tinykin are objectively the best ones, don't at me. Pink and yellow Tinykin are mostly used for carrying objects. Red and blue Tinykin are consumables needed to access new areas and solve puzzles. And green Tinykin let you stack up and reach higher locations. This ability in particular grants a great sense of progression throughout the levels, where you initially need to identify routes to get somewhere high early on, but by the end you can just climb straight to any destination you desire. And while you can't take Tinykin from room to room, you need to start from zero somehow, you still wind up with a massive army following you that you never need to worry about. The correct type of Tinykin will always be automatically used in any given situation, to the point where all you need to do to use green or yellow Tinykin is press a single button. The horde also can't get stuck behind walls, allowing you to platform around unobstructed, and it's just really nice not having to worry about the state of your army. After all, this is a platformer. You're always going to be on the move, and it's going to be a fun time. Mylodane's moveset is fairly simple, consisting of 3 mechanics: a bubble glide, a soap board, and the green Tinykin. Collecting enough pollen in an area allows you to upgrade your bubble glide, reaching absolutely stupid distances you can travel. This is helped by its great synergy with the green Tinykin. Climb up high, float across. For the soap board, it's just a way to make traversal more fun. It gets affected by slopes, giving you the occasional burst of speed, but it can also rail grind on string or the edges of platforms, albeit being a bit finicky on curved edges. For how simple all these mechanics are, it just gives you a fun kit to use to explore the levels, which are the main highlights of the game. Plus, it's just so open-ended and free. You can go anywhere you feel like in no time flat because, well, this game isn't about tight platforming or challenges, it's about exploring the world. This is emphasized by the fact that this game has the best implementation of fall damage I've ever seen. Instead of taking damage or getting stunned, you die and respawn where you last stood. This removes so much tedium the genre is prone to, and allows the game to have incredibly tall locations. And if you wanted to go down, bubble glide. And funnily enough, despite the exploration focus the moveset has, the game added time trials in every level. And honestly, despite the simplicity of the movement, I still wound up spending 30 minutes last playthrough going for a single platinum medal. There's some merit to a movement system that's able to do that and still be interesting. Although, it is just a vessel used to interact with the game's strongest asset. It is my belief that the single most important part of any 3D platformer are its levels, and I feel like Tinykin very much so agrees with this. The collectibles, the movement, even the game's premise places a ton of weight on the actual environments you're exploring. And with all this pressure these levels have to live up to, they succeed in being like the most fun things ever. Here, let's run through the first level of the game. The city of Sanctar serves as a religious hub where the bugs worship the almighty Ardwin, the home's former owner. Right off the bat, S-tier premise, but it takes this fun idea and combines it with a living room filled with musical instruments, adding another layer of depth to explore. A church made of cardboard lies in the center of the room. Platforming segments focus on traversing a sofa or a bookshelf. Every spot you explore connects a series of webs straight to a cat tree, which is also home to an ant restaurant, except one of their tables is a piano key, and bringing it back to the piano opens the piano up. And as you go inside, the music changes to a piano cover. This is why Tinykin is so freaking good. Bouncing off of guitar strings, reclining a recliner to go underneath, taking pictures of ferocious monsters, the different NPCs you can meet. There's a song that only shield bugs can hear, and one of them's trying to teach an ant. That's adorable! I love this! And it connects to the main objective you're even trying to do in this level. A mysterious disc was uncovered, and the shield bugs don't know what to do with it. But by using our expert human knowledge, we can determine... See, players broke. By locating the missing parts and clearing the path forward, everyone in the living room is able to hear the song, ruining the teaching moment between the two bugs from earlier. Except they still want to do singing lessons. Oh my god, I love this. The levels are jam-packed with charm, and it makes it clear that, while playing the game, the people working on it had so much fun making it, and that energy just seeps through the whole experience. These levels are also the reason completion is such an important part of the game. Once again, if you only focus on beating the game, you miss out on basically everything. The levels are great experiences to just chill out, relax, jump around, and experience the world. And I can only begin to explain a number of other small details that I freaking love. The mix of a 2D style with simple yet colorful 3D models culminate into experience I refer to as brain feel good. The different levels are tinted their own different colors, and it helps them stick out and feel more unique. I can't even begin to get into the surprisingly dark and interesting lore this game has. But despite all of these things Tinykin does right, this game doesn't succeed at every aspect. The two biggest issues with Tinykin are its difficulty and completion. Let's start with difficulty because, well, issue is not the right word to describe it. This is a simple, relaxing, turn brain off platformer about going around collecting shiny stuff. You might have to time some things or, heaven forbid, jump to the right. But Tinykin isn't trying to be difficult. Of course, this lack of challenge can be the primary reason someone doesn't like the game. And yeah, that makes sense. If you don't like games that don't even try to be challenging, then you are not going to enjoy Tinykin. But it's not really a problem with the game itself, unlike going for completion. Despite the heavy focus Tinykin has on 100%, it misses the mark right at the very end. Going around, grabbing pollen and Tinykin, exploring to complete the secondary objectives for relics, all of that is just a fun, flowing experience. And then you run out of obvious tasks. You check your status, and the only things you're missing are a few Tinykin and some pollen. If you complete a lot of games, this is a situation you're likely familiar with. But now, due to the plentiful amounts of these collectibles, with each stage having hundreds of Tinykin and potentially thousands of pollen, it's not really solvable by even just looking it up. Unless you really want to follow step by step a nearly hour-long video walkthrough. The real problem is that these missing collectibles can be literally anywhere. Maybe you missed it in plain sight. Maybe it's a full-on area you just didn't find. Or maybe it's somewhere you've already been and just didn't check behind a random corner. I spent hours on my first playthrough trying to find just 3 pollen in the kitchen, just to learn I missed a single croissant at this table. It doesn't help that Tinykin's only method of assisting completion are just a pair of binoculars. Not only is the actual shine effect of collectibles super negligible, but it doesn't identify anything more than what you can just see. When, say, Psychonauts 2 had similar issues at launch, they added an update that gave the player more tools to assist completion, to the point where you can literally see collectibles through walls. These are good additions to have because I don't think anyone's favorite part of completing a game is the cleanup phase. Although Tinykin did get an update to make completion easier, but it only fixed an issue that really should not have been an issue. You weren't shown how many Tinykin you had per area before the update, and when combined with the singular all or nothing achievement, you wouldn't know if you actually collected every Tinykin in an area unless you collected every Tinykin in every area. Of course, this was patched, so it doesn't matter anymore, but they could have gone further. But what's even worse is that this game didn't have to make you collect literally everything for completion. There are elements in place that would have been perfect stopping points. Every level only requires you to gather a certain amount of pollen for the region's bubble upgrade, and you only need so many Tinykin to complete main and side objectives. But with the addition of these in-game achievements, you need to collect every last morsel of pollen if you want to complete the game. But even with this really annoying flaw, I can't hate this game. Tinykin is a freaking awesome, short and sweet platforming adventure, and we need more games like it. What it lacks in difficulty, it makes up for with pure charm and a fun world, and it's just a blast to go through. Every level is memorable, the platforming is slick, the characters are cute, and the ending of this game, once again, kind of goes unreasonably hard and recontextualizes a lot of this game in such a cool way. And yeah, Tinykin does fall into some common collectathon platformer pitfalls, but this is still a must-play for any 3D platformer enthusiast out there. Anyways, yeah, that's really it. Not many people know about this game. I like it. Have a good day.